Hello, I'm Tamara Banks, and welcome to Denver Decides. This community partnership is dedicated to accessible and transparent elections. The partnership includes the League of Women Voters of Denver, Inter-Neighborhood Cooperation, and is presented by Denver 8 TV. Our mission today is to present a candidate forum in anticipation of the general election coming up on Tuesday, November 6th. Among other offices, this election includes the candidates vying to represent constituents in Colorado State Senate from District Number 34. Senate District 34 is located in central west and northwest Denver. Our format includes timed openings and closing statement from each of the candidates. That will be followed by rounds of questions that have been submitted by the organizers of the forum. Since we do have a time limit, we may not be able to get to all of the submitted questions. I want to advise you here that there are two candidates on the November ballot for this seat in the Colorado Senate. Republican candidate Gordon Alley was invited to the forum but chose not to participate. So let's begin by meeting the other candidate on the ballot for the seat, Democrat Julie Gonzalez. Ms. Gonzalez, welcome to the forum. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you so much for this opportunity.
You bet. So we're going to begin with a 1-minute opening statement, and you'll look to the timekeepers for your cues. Okay, you can begin.
Thank you. Well, thank you so much for this opportunity. My name is Julie Gonzalez, and I'm a candidate running to serve the constituents of North, West, and downtown Denver. I've dedicated my life to organizing young people, Latinos, and working class people to get involved in the issues that really impact their lives. Because as I've told communities for years, you know, if you're not at the table, it's probably because you're on the menu. We're living in a time in which our communities need representation at the state capitol, and I've dedicated my life to organizing communities around issues of affordable housing, immigrant rights, and educational justice, and look forward to having a good conversation with you here today.
All right. Thank you, Ms. Gonzalez. Now we're going to move to the questions.
Sure.
And you'll have 1 minute to answer each question. Your first question, what methods have you or will you use to meet or engage with citizens in your district?
You know, when we started this campaign, the conventional wisdom is that you go to the places where there's the highest turnout in the Democratic primaries and then also in our general elections. And we turned that in our campaign on its head. And we said, no, you know what? The folks who are always involved, they're going to be involved in this election as well. Where we want to start are the communities that haven't participated in the democratic process, right? And so we actually started our campaign by going to the communities that had the lowest voter turnout and started there and asked communities in Globeville, in Westwood, in Lincoln-Lalma Park, what are the issues that are most important to you? What are you angry about? What are you hopeful for? And that really formed the backbone of our campaign and our policy platform.
Okay. Our next question then is give 1 or 2 ideas by which you think the state legislature can reduce homelessness.
Absolutely. You know, one of the things that we heard time and time again from those communities in Lincoln-Lalma, in Westwood, and in Globeville was just a lot of anxiety around the rising cost of living and, you know, a lot of fear as to whether folks would be able to continue to afford their rent and or make their next mortgage payment. And you know, we're living in a time where too many Coloradans are just a paycheck away from or an emergency away from being out on the streets. And so, you know, part of what I feel like we need to do is to make housing more affordable and then also provide and establish a lot more protections for renters here in the state of Colorado. I myself live in an affordable housing unit. I know how transformational that has been for me in my life. And the first way to really combat housing homelessness is to really make more housing available and make it affordable and accessible for folks to be able to access.
All right. Thank you. Our next question. Colorado has fallen near the bottom of all states in funding education. What specifically would you like to see done to change that?
You know, my mom was an a second grade teacher. She taught me when I was in elementary school, and thanks to her love and encouragement, I went on to graduate from Yale. I know and I understand the importance and the transformative nature of education, and yet, just like you mentioned, Colorado is not doing a good enough job of actually putting the dollars in the classroom where they need to go. Half of our school districts across the state are deeply underfunded, and they're operating on 4-day weeks now. And so, while I'm a huge supporter of Amendment 73 to get more dollars into the classroom, we actually need to do a better job of getting those dollars to teachers, and pay teachers what they're worth, and then also make sure that students are getting all of the support that they need in order to graduate and go on and be successful for the state of Colorado and its economy.
Thank you. Before we go on to our next question, I just want to remind our viewers that we do have a second candidate, that is Gordon Alley. He was invited and decided not to join us this evening. So now we'll continue on with the questions for candidate Julie Gonzalez, vying for the State Senate seat from District 34. Julie, your next question is, by many measures, marijuana has been a success. Do you think it is working well? And what tweaks might the state still need to do?
I work in a criminal defense law firm where for years we witnessed the criminalization of communities, oftentimes communities of color, low-income communities, for utilizing marijuana. And so I'm really excited to see that we have been able to take a lot of those low-level, nonviolent drug offenses off the table, right? And that has gone a long way here in the state of Colorado. It's also provided, marijuana has also provided incredible economic benefits to the construction of new schools in our state, right? I do think that there are still efforts to be able to ensure that from seed to sale, that we are able to track and monitor the production of marijuana, and I look forward to being able to work alongside folks in the industry as well as community activists and organizations to make sure that we're doing our very best to ensure regulation, but also thoughtful regulation of this industry. I think it's really important.
Okay, thank you. Now, if elected, which one local Denver issue will be your highest priority for legislation that you would sponsor?
All throughout this campaign, as I've been knocking doors, I keep hearing this deep anxiety and this hope for an increase in affordable housing. And I think for a long time, the state of Colorado has sort of left that to the municipalities to address. And I do think that we have a real opportunity in Colorado to, as a state, also put forward policies that will support the creation of more affordable housing units, whether that's through the creation of a statewide affordable housing fund, or whether that's also putting policies in place to protect renters. Right now there's a prohibition on rent control at the state level. And I look forward to addressing legislation to repeal that prohibition so that way Denver can then have the conversation as to whether rent control is a policy that makes sense for Denver. Maybe it makes sense in Denver, maybe it doesn't. But we should be able to have the conversation, and I look forward to working with lots of different communities across the city and across the state to make that happen.
Okay, thank you. Next question from our sponsoring partners. What are your top 3 priorities for small businesses if you are elected?
Having worked at the law firm, at the Meyer Law Office, back when it was just myself and the lead attorney, Hans Meyer, we've now built our firm to be a small business of 15 different employees, and so I firsthand know just how difficult it is to be able to provide health insurance for all of your employees. And so I think that that's something that's really important to me at the state level, is to find ways to make healthcare more accessible and affordable for all Coloradans, and thereby, making it easier for small businesses to also be able to provide that healthcare to their employees as well. I also think that there are lots of different opportunities that we have to streamline and make it easier for small businesses to succeed. I think especially around one of the things that I've been learning a lot about in Senate District 34 has been around the need for more local food options, right? And so whether that's co-ops or whether those are small restaurants, right? Streamlining some of the regulatory processes there to be able to allow those small businesses to actually thrive. I look forward to working with folks in community to make that happen.
All right, next question. Give one or two ideas by which you think the state legislature can improve the affordability of housing.
Mm-hmm. As I mentioned before, I do think that a lot of the dollars that are out on the table are put forward by municipalities, right? And we do have some funding mechanisms at the state level, and I look forward to increasing those funds that are available through the creation of a statewide affordable housing fund. I do think that that'll be critically important because to pretend that this is just that the affordable housing crisis is only affecting Denver proper and that it's not impacting, for instance, Lakewood or Thornton or Westminster, right? We all are invested in making sure that Colorado is a place where everyone can thrive, regardless of, whether you're an old school Northsider born and raised, or whether you've affirmatively chosen to live here in Colorado. Everyone should be able to afford a place to live here in our state. And I think those are the policies that we can put forward.
Okay. Ms. Gonzalez, I think we've got one last question for you.
Sure.
What further steps does the state need to make around incarceration and sentencing? And does Colorado still have a war on drugs?
Mm-hmm. I do believe that there is a lot of work to do to address the sentencing guidelines that are currently in place here in the state of Colorado. We often see incarceration being used as the first remedy as opposed to rehabilitation, particularly as we're navigating right now an opioid crisis. We're seeing incarceration as the first step as opposed to rehabilitation and treatment options. Now, I know that there's a ballot initiative here at the local level that I'm really supportive of, Caring for Denver initiative, that will try to get more dollars to treatment options and to mental health options. But there's more work that we need to do at the state level, and I do think that there is a really important conversation to be had with bringing together the stakeholders from the mental health community, from the substance abuse and treatment community, as well as the criminal justice system, to be able to think through how can we better serve members of our community. Because believe it, whether or not you support treatment or whether you think that incarceration should be the only answer, at the end of the day, folks are going to come back into our community, and we need to make sure that we're setting those communities up for success through treatment and rehabilitation, and not just incarceration.
Okay, that's the end of the questioning. And now it's time for the closing statement. So you will have a minute and a half, 90 seconds for your closing statement, Julie Gonzalez.
Well, I do thank you all for the opportunity to participate in this event. As I mentioned, I dedicated my life to working alongside communities to make a space for everyone to participate in the policies that directly impact their lives. And I really do believe that when we actually listen to the folks who are directly impacted by policies, whether those are young people, whether those are elders in our community, whether we're talking about how a proposal could impact both downtown Denver as well as rural Colorado. That's going to be incredibly important for us to do as we really tackle the issues that are confronting us as a state. It is incredibly important for us to meaningfully address growth here in the state of Colorado. because, Colorado is awesome and everybody wants to live here, which means that we need to be thoughtful about the policies we put forward to address affordable housing, to address transportation, and to make sure that we have that we're being sustainable in how we grow. And so on those and a host of other issues, I fundamentally believe that when you listen to the folks who are impacted, you end up with better policies. And so I look forward to working alongside all of you to really achieve a Colorado where we can live with dignity and respect and a clean environment, and a Colorado where everyone has the right to a home and where everyone has the right to health care. Those are all values that are critically important to me. And if you agree, I really encourage you to go to govotecolorado.com and make sure that you're registered to vote. And if you need to update your voter registration, to do so, because this election is going to be critically important from the bottom of the ballot to the top. And so, thank y'all so much for this opportunity. It's been an honor.
All right. Thank you. One more reminder that there are 2 candidates on the ballot seeking the seat in the Colorado Senate from District 34. Republican candidate Gordon Alley was invited but chose not to participate. Thank you to Democratic candidate Julie Gonzalez for being here. Appreciate it. Our thanks to the Denver Decides partners, including Interneighborhood Cooperation and the League of Women Voters of Denver. Denver Decides is presented by Denver 8 TV. Remember, the election is Tuesday, November 6th. Let your voice be heard. Be sure you are registered and be sure to go out and vote. For complete election information, go online to denverdecides.com. I'm Tamara Banks. Thanks so much for joining us this evening. Take care.